Hey folks, and welcome to Typology, the show in which we explore the mystery of the human personality through the lens of the Enneagram. I'm Anthony Skinner, producer of the show. We're certainly happy to have you here today. We've got a fantastic guest. I'm really excited about our guest today. She's a good friend of Typology's. We're talking about Rachel Cruze. She is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and seasoned communicator. Rachel helps people learn the proper ways to handle money and stay out of debt. She's authored 3 best-selling books, including Love Your Life, Not Theirs, and Smart Money, Smart Kids. Her brand new book, which will publish January 5, 2021, is called Know Yourself, Know Your Money. Discover why you handle money the way you do and what to do about it. We'll talk more about her book and the show. Of course, as the daughter of Dave Ramsey, she uses the knowledge and the experiences from growing up in the Ramsey household to educate others, and that she does. She does a lot of that on this show, which we're looking forward to. And as the host of the Rachel Cruze Show, which is available on Facebook and YouTube, and the Rachel Cruze Show podcast, which is available on Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, she educates people everywhere. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Here is the host of our show, Ian Cron.
Rachel Cruze, welcome to Typology.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having me on.
You know, one of the most wonderful but intimidating moments of my life was when I was on the Rachel Cruze Show.
Yeah, right, Ian.
I was on a sound stage. How many people were on that sound stage?
There's quite a few, and they all have like their own specific job.
Yeah, well, we hope, right?
Yeah.
But it was like 10 people?
Yeah, I'd say 10 to 12 usually. Yeah. Well, because I think we did like a 3-camera shoot. You have an audio person, you have content, you have the producer, director. Yeah, it's like it was the whole thing. And you were a favorite, Ian.
Well, I don't know. I felt like I was on Oprah, for crying out loud. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be serious.
It's basically like Oprah, Rachel Cruze. Everyone's like, I don't really know, which is,
Yeah, I was kind of like, am I pitting it? Are my armpits okay? Am I, is my lip glistening? Is, the makeup person going to come get me?
You're great. You did great.
Well, you have such a wonderful and multi-faceted career. Why don't you just, for the sake of our audience, just tell them in short what it is that you do.
Yes. So I work at Ramsey Solutions. I'm a Ramsey, what we call personality. So my job is in the financial space. And so I speak, I write, I do media, books, podcasts, YouTube shows, all the things around personal finance. So my big passion is getting people in control of their money so that they can create a life that they love. Because I just see money as a tool to use in life to create this life that you want and to give a bunch of it away. So being generous is a big part of my message as well. But really, I think for so many Americans, their money just controls them. It controls the job that they have to stay in that they hate. It controls their lifestyle, it controls their stress and their thoughts and their options. And when money doesn't control you anymore and you actually control it, there's a level of freedom in life, and I believe so wholeheartedly in that. And so getting people on the right track with their money is my passion in life.
Well said. And a mission, that I have often told people I think is amazing, because I'm fortunate that, we have a life where we don't have a lot of anxiety about money. But there are a lot of people who live under the oppression and the tyranny of debt, unhappiness in their jobs, as you said, and feeling constrained. Let me give you an example of this. My daughter went to an expensive private college, right? And, by God's good grace, we were able to pay for it, right? But she had friends coming out with $50, $70, $100,000 worth of debt. And number one, I think the college tuition and system is a complete ripoff. But secondly, I felt so terrible that here were these young people carrying mortgages,
Oh, yeah. Except they don't have it,
And
right? Like
exactly.
they don't have the equity.
And,
It's crazy.
yeah. And we met a girl who was in love with a guy, and the guy said, "We can't get married. You have too much debt.
Oh,
We won't be able." How, you know what I'm saying? In other words, the debt chased the guy away. So you know, big mission, well done. Of course, Ramsey is enormous. You've got like what, 1,300 employees over there now, or something like that, all running around
under
trying to
1,000.
make this.
I won't. Yeah, right under 1,000.
Oh, is that right? But I heard you were hiring, so I might need a job.
Yeah, after COVID-19, everything we opened it back up.
That's right. That's right. We're all very open to the possibility of applications being put in. All right. So one question I always start the show with is, when did you first learn about the Enneagram, and how did you figure out your type?
Yes. Okay. So the very first time I heard about it, it was back in 2000 and it had been early 2015. No, 16. It was 2016. And I was actually in Israel doing a trip, around all the things Israel, if you've been over there on a Christian Bible type trip. And we were sitting outside the Sea of Galilee, and there was a group of pastors in our area that went on this trip with us. And I didn't really know them very well. So we were all talking one night, and they brought it up. And they said, "Have you heard about the Enneagram?" And I naturally love personality stuff. Like I do. I've taken every personality thing, and I had never heard of the Enneagram. So they started talking about these numbers and these wings and all this. And I kind of thought, it sounds a little bit weird. I don't know why. I kind of was like, not turned off by it, but I was like, I've done that before. I know my
Right.
personality. I'm good. So fast forward probably about 6 months. And I think it was your book, The Road Back to You. Me.
Right.
Ian.
The road back to you.
I was like, wait, I have like 18 copies at my house. I'm like, how do I not know this name? Sorry, that was a complete brain moment. I blame kids. It's just being so that's what I'm blaming on.
You can always blame children.
Yeah, that's it, always. And the lists before every chapter, and I started just reading through those really quickly. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating, because I immediately went to everyone else in my life except for me. And I was like, that's my mom. That's my dad. That's my husband.
Right.
That's friend. Like, it was unbelievable. And of course I found my number through that. And then I probably stayed deep in it for a while, because as you know, there's so many layers. There's so much to it. And I keep learning and learning and learning. So I've tested one number. I'm on the Enneagram podcast with you with this one number. And I think I even told you the day you came and did my show last year. I still struggle because I think I might be another number. So I'm confident that I'm the number I probably test that I am, because when I read it, I very much relate to it. But I still have a high number that I think I could be too.
So
not to confuse
Anthony, I have to tell you a funny story about this.
All right.
So there's all this angst on the set because Rachel thinks she's one number.
Okay.
Other people are not saying as much, but they're all looking at each other, like rolling their eyes a little bit, or turning away, or going off into the shadows to talk, and I'm like, gee, I wonder what's going on. And God bless you, Rich. You were honest. You said, some people think I'm this, some people think I'm that. And I said, in one of the numbers was 3. And what was the other number? 7. And so I just said, all right, Rachel, close your eyes.
I remember this.
And I said, how many of you here think Rachel is a 3? And every single hand in the room went up. And then I said, now, Rachel, open your eyes, because I wanted to protect everybody's job is what I was doing, right? I didn't save anybody's job. She should have fired all of them, because every single person said, oh, she's a 3. There's no question she's a 3. The Enneagram is a big deal at Ramsey Solutions. I trained 700 people there. I have done your show, Ken's show, Entree Leadership a couple of times. I'm doing an event with you guys next month in Orlando. Who's that? I was just talking to.
Yes, Entree Leadership Summit. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, yes.
I'm on the main stage, babe. So watch out.
Go. Ian.
Yeah,
So glad.
watch out.
Everyone needs you.
Yeah, right. Tell my wife and
Do a
kids.
spit take. Just,
Everybody needs you.
I'm here
But
to help everyone. That's it.
my point is that I love how the Enneagram has worked itself into the dough of Ramsey. I've had a lot of people at Ramsey stop me in restaurants or places and who were at a training and have said, man, like this is something that's really affected our company's culture, but also my marriage, and so there's all these side benefits, it's not, I could be wrong, but disc and stuff like that really is a business application more than it is a holistic life education about yourself. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. For sure. For sure.
And so that has been a great joy to me that it has had an impact over there. There's a couple of companies that's happened at, but it's really fun that it's happened at yours. So Enneagram 3, but are you still torn?
I mean, yeah, some days I am. I'll be honest. Yes.
Okay.
Because I just have elements of a 7 that are so strong, I feel like, but I also have elements of a 3 that are very strong as well. So, I mean, I'm probably a 3. I'll just be honest. That's probably it. And is it true? Is this a true statement about the Enneagram? The number you like don't want to be is the number you usually are, or something like that.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, mine's a 3. Like very annoying. And can I say this too, Ian? The most annoying combination, I feel terrible saying it, but I'm going to just say it. For me, is an unhealthy male 3.
Well, unhealthy anybody is no good.
That's fair. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it.
what does that look like?
Yeah, I want to hear the history behind that.
I have dear friends that I love.
Air quotes.
No. Oh, it's pulling out their phone and showing me the last, X, Y, or Z thing that they did, and that they know this person and that person, and did you know I did this and that? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I feel so drained because I didn't ask. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah,
ask, and I really want to know. I want the answer, and I want to celebrate with you, and like very much. It's not like this envious thing, but when it just screams like insecurity to me or something, and I'm like, you're going to be so validated by your work, which is such a 3. And then I see it in like the unhealthy way. And I just see it more with guys, I guess. I guess because I know more male 3s than I do male or female 3s.
I agree. When you see it, then now we're talking about a low average to unhealthy 3, very little self-awareness. Just go on Instagram. And every vacation, here we are in, St. Bart's, sipping drinks with pictures of their feet looking out over the ocean, right? And a drink in their hand. Or, hey, I feel so blessed that I was able to buy this new Aston Martin. Or glad to be hired. And it's sort of always credentializing, flaunting success.
Yes.
Looking for approval and admiration. Yes. Now, again, these are unhealthy 3s. Right. A very healthy 3 would not be in that space at all.
Yes. Yes. And I guess maybe that's why I don't like a 3. I guess because I associate a 3 with all the unhealthy stuff, like all the things that annoy me about a 3. That's what I think a 3 is. So I'm like, I don't want to be that. I don't know if that.
Here's the deal. You don't have to be that. If you're, doing your work and developing the kind of self-awareness where you're developing an inner objective, compassionate witness who can step back and observe your behavior, the way that you're acting, thinking, and feeling in real time, and who can inquire and then make adjustments to step out of that unhealthy space, right? So I have a very strong 3 wing. It's called a heavy wing. I don't know if you know this, but with wings, you can have a heavy wing that is so heavy that, let's say it's 90-10, right? You're or I should say, no, maybe, you're just the average, the proportions are such that they're almost the same, right?
Right.
Then
Almost
you,
50-50
then, you-
numbers.
right. Then you have a moderate, which is 50-50. And then maybe you have a light wing. And sometimes light wings play such a minor role that your dominant type just is really the thing that steps forward, right? So because I'm a dominant 4, but with a heavy 3 wing, I used to test as a 3 and a 7 all the time. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
I think the reason I had such a heavy 3 wing is I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, where everyone is successful. Everybody's flaunting it. Everybody's talking about Wall Street and all the bonuses they're making, the huge houses they're buying, the expensive private schools their kids go to. And I feel like I had to live a lot of my life in 3 just so I could fit in, even though I was a 4. When I moved to Nashville, I was like, oh my gosh, these are my people. And my 3 wing relaxed and this 4 thing in me just blossomed. And so there are a lot of ways that this can work itself out, and
Yes. Well, it's funny for me. I think my work, which I need to probably digest this more, but the work side of Rachel, it feels so much more 7 to me. It really doesn't, which is weird to say, but my performance and all of that, and and this probably sounds like I'm not a great manager of my things and my platform and all of that, but I don't look at Instagram likes. I don't know how many YouTube video views I've got. My team helps with the research of what content works. I don't know, because I really don't care. I just hope that content's helping people, but I don't go on Instagram and fret about what's going on. If I woke up tomorrow and all social media was taken away from me, I probably would just start a personal account, make it private, and actually post things with my family. Do you know what I mean? With my friends or whatever. So the work side of me doesn't feel that, but where I do feel the 3 and that pressure of performance, I want to be good enough, I want to be effective, more so is at home. It's with being a mom, being a wife, that whole being a friend, the personal side of me, I feel my 3-ness rise up.
Interesting. So what I was going to say, and this will be related about that heavy 3 wing of mine, is that I can catch myself now because of that inner observer and because I can literally feel it in my body. And that's something, Anthony, we got to do a show on eventually, which is I can feel when my passion, which is envy, starts to rise, right? Your passion is deceit or self-deceit. Mm-hmm. Mine's envy, right? When it starts to rise up, I can feel it. And so with a heavy 3 wing, I might start to envy my friend's big house or fancy car, or I may be I may find myself, I was talking to a friend about this today, I'm an approval seeker. I want people to really, I don't want people to just like me. I want them to admire me. I want people to think I'm the bomb. Now, that's when my 3 wing is really acting out. I'm a 4, trust me. But I can step back, and if you can do the same as a 3 and say, right now, I'm kind of putting on my BS show because I want everybody to love me. I want everyone not just to love me, I want them to admire me. Mm. And so I got to put an ice pack on that and try to get it to shrink, get my ego back to its proper size, And that's what the Enneagram is largely for, yes. Making adjustments, doing the right thing, So you have this book dropping January 5th, 2021, right?
Yes.
And it's titled Know Yourself, Know Your Money, Discover Why You Handle Money the Way You Do and What to Do About it. By the way, when did titles of books get this long?
I know it is. That's the subtitle.
I mean,
Know Yourself, Know Your Money. That's it. Know Yourself, Know Your Money is the title of the book.
You know what it is? It's SEO.
4 words.
Literally, it's SEO. Did you know that? That the more
those terms in and
yeah. So if people Google them, the likelihood of your book coming up will be greater.
Yes.
I don't know, one of these days it's probably going to be full paragraphs, of names of books. Tell me about the topic of the book. We're going to jump into the Enneagram and money in just a second, but it's related to the book. So tell us about the book.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it. So it's on pre-sale, but I really wanted to dig under the foundation of all the money principles we teach. Like I've been for 10 years telling people how to get out of debt and why you should budget, talking about investing and retirement and emergency funds and like all these things. But I started to realize, honestly, the Enneagram kind of helped with that, and other types of self-awareness tools. Of realizing, okay, yes, you can do all these things and you can do the baby steps, you can do the plan that we teach, but you can just white knuckle your way through it and just like grit your teeth and just go and make the progress. But I thought, man, what if you really can go underneath that surface and figure out, why are you handling money the way you do? Why did you go that deep in debt? Was it for appearance sake because you wanted things? Was it the standard of living? Was it because you didn't plan? Was it because you don't have enough income? What's the why behind that? What's the why that you don't budget? What's the why? Why do you spend the way you spend? So really asking those questions, and so much of it comes out of so many, obviously, levels of who we are, but everything from your fears in life, from how you grew up, your dreams, your tendencies, your giving, your saving, your spending, your how you relate to behavior change. Are you quick to change your behavior, or are you slower in the process? So like figuring out all of that and really getting to the root of who you are, and for self-awareness, not just for self-awareness sake, but to really use that as a tool and a springboard to help you win with money faster. Because when you start to understand the person in the mirror that's actually handling the money better, it's going to allow you to go on this journey, I think, and see progress so much faster.
Okay, now this has been a real interest for me. And in fact, we've been doing this series on YouTube. We've done Enneagram and stress. We've done Enneagram and team building. We've done Enneagram and leadership, all kinds of stuff. And we have a plan for one on Enneagram and finances. So I'm very, very excited to talk about it. And I thought it would be fun today to go through the 9 Enneagram types and talk about how they handle money and why. Because here's the deal, and this is why I so agree with you. You all have great tools, great mission, but I think there's another layer back, and you've just been referring to it, right? Which is there are the issue of personality, where different people it's not cookie cutter. In other words, like different people require almost a different approach to money based on their particular personality, right? Now, you're not going to change the principles of Ramsey, right? You want to get people out of debt. You want people to have a budget. You want people to have retirement, right? But different types are going to have to approach that differently. It doesn't work the same across the board. So you want to try this out?
Yes, let's do it. I know my thoughts will be completely on the go because I haven't really dove in specifically to each number and money, but I'm so excited.
Well, you could interview me, but that would be kind of backwards.
No, but so yeah, I have my off the cuff, probably stereotypical ways that they probably do. So you want to go?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about type 1 perfectionists and money.
I think these people are going to be great budgeters.
Yes.
Really, really good at the details, grasping it, knowing it, and thriving on that progress of being in control. Everything is right there, and they can kind of perfect it on paper or in their app, whatever they're doing. I think that ones will be really, really great budgeters.
Yes, they are. I know very few ones who are in debt. Unless some life circumstance has come along, unforeseen circumstance came along, health thing or something that gave them no choice, a sick parent, something like that. And but they hate debt. And generally, ones are very frugal. If a one goes out and buys, they will go online and shop, and they will look for the very best price for an $80 sweater. Okay, so they find it for $65. They will drive 15 miles, right, to get the $65 one. And Lord forbid if they get home and find out that a day later Target reduced it by half.
They would
I
bring
am
it back to the store and get the difference in credit. Yes.
Yeah, it arouses anger in the one because it was unjust and unfair.
Yes. That is my mother, Ian. That is mom.
Is it really?
Mom still keeps her receipts. And if a sale goes on, she does. I mean, for years I've known this. She goes back to the store and she's like, I just bought this and it went on sale. So I need, they credit back. They give you back the money of the sale if you have the receipt within 30 days. Oh yeah, that is so my mom. That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of ones, it's interesting to me, by the way, at Ramsey, I don't know if I told you this, but when I first went there, I thought, well, this is a pretty aggressive company. You know, your dad is an 8, I think. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
I've heard he's an 8 with an 8 wing. I've never met your dad, isn't that, it's crazy. No?
We need to get him on this podcast. He'd be a great as an 8 because he's pure 8.
Yeah. 8 with an 8 wing.
Yeah.
So I went there thinking, there's going to be a lot of 8s. There's going to be a lot of 3s. There's going to be blah, blah, blah. And I did a survey of the room because a lot of people already knew their type. But when I arrived there, first of all, the room was empty. And all the pens on the tables were perfectly aligned. The people were so prepared for my arrival that I felt like the president. Met me at the door, brought me in. It was so organized. I realized they're all ones. And in fact, most of the people in that room, probably that day there were 500 or 600, I can't remember, but hundreds of people in the room. I said, how many of you are ones? And the majority were ones. Now, here's why. Okay. Ones want to be good. And they want to be virtuous. They want to be responsible. They want to act appropriately. And they love teaching other people how to live well, appropriately, responsibly, etc. Now, if they're not healthy, they won't teach, they'll preach, right? So there'll be this kind of thing, like, well, you should have done this with your budget, right? If they're healthy, they're beautiful teachers to help people improve the quality of their lives. And so I was like, well, look, why didn't I think of that? Of course, they're mostly ones, So anyhow, that was very, very interesting to me.
Very fascinating. I don't even know if I would have guessed that. If you had said what kind of company is Ramsey, I probably would have said, I would have gone one of the aggressive numbers, right? I probably would have said 3, 8s. There's some 7 in us for sure. But yeah.
Well, it might be, but oftentimes people think that the CEO's type determines the culture, like the cultural type. It's not true. Because it depends on the constellation of all the people that are there that, because you may have a CEO who's one number, but his company is actually a whole different number.
Yeah.
For a whole host of reasons. Okay, let's talk about 2s for a second. How do you think 2s would handle money and finances?
I see 2s as probably being some of the most generous, probably one of the most generous numbers of the Enneagram with their money. I think that they are going to be way more servant-oriented, way more apt to help you with something, even if it's you have to buy it, right? So that they'll spend money, but probably not as much on themselves, probably more for others. So
yes,
I just had my 3rd baby about 7 months ago, and the amount of meals that came, most of them were 2s.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, and again, whether it was takeout, they cooked it, whatever it was, but I see there's such that servant heart in that too.
Yep.
And I think that they probably are they're probably, if not the most generous number, they're up there for sure.
So let me tell you what they're like when they're not very healthy. And I have a story too to go with it.
Can't wait.
They're over generous and they over help. And the reason they do is twos believe, the helpers, that they have to meet the needs of others in order to win their love and approval, right? So twos, let me give you a story. I knew a woman, she was a retired teacher, right? And her daughter and son-in-law bought a house that they really couldn't afford, right? Mortgage payment started to get onerous. They were really going under and kept talking to mom about it. And one day, mom shows up at their house with a check for the balance of their mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So instead of saying, sell your house and live in an apartment, she showed up with a check to pay off the mortgage.
Yes.
And
bad decisions, right?
right. And the kids were uncomfortable at one. I mean, they were thrilled on one level, but they knew that there was a string attached to the check. In other words, that they were on the hook, that mom was saying, I'll take care of your needs if you take care of mine without my actually having to ask you to do it. So twos can be over generous, over helpers, and sometimes that help financially can be intrusive and invasive.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And damaging to the people they're helping.
Sure, because they strip the dignity of that adult child, right? For them to
Yeah.
the consequence of having too big of a mortgage for their income, or having to go through the pain of selling it and getting, I mean, right, like all of that instills so much in you, and they kind of take that dignity from you, right? Because they want to come in and overly help.
Yep.
That's a great point.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's go to you threes.
I'm going to speak for myself. We're spenders. I would say if I wasn't Dave Ramsey's daughter, I'd probably have a lot of debt. Probably go get nice things and enjoy it. No, but like for real though, I think threes probably have a lot of debt, and I think that we probably are. We are probably more the spender type number, and on things and experiences, for kind of like what you said earlier, but for everyone else to see, right? Which is a question I've learned to ask myself, Ian. Not bringing it back to me. It's probably a very three thing to do, but I've over the past couple of years, like learning the Enneagram in this, and I'm like, okay, so every time I make a purchase, whether it's like a nice brand of shoes or piece of clothing or a thing in my kitchen, I don't care what it is. I ask myself every time, I'm like, okay, if no one sees this, do I still want it?
Wow, that's a great question for three.
So
That's a good question.
my filter, and it's helped me so much, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I still want these. Like I've been wanting, X, Y, or Z, and I'm still going to do it. I don't care if anyone sees it. I just want it because I'm excited about it. But sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I really want people to see that. So I've got to check myself. I don't know. So I feel like that's a three thing.
Threes, I hope you heard that as you think about money, because it's a very probing, challenging question. And I think what we're describing again is a three that's not very self-aware. They will tend to want to acquire status symbols. And so they'll spend money on stuff that signals success, because in the mind of a three, success equates with love. And so they want not only to be successful, but as their unconscious motivation to appear successful. So let me give you an example of this. My dad was a three, and we went through a long season, an alcoholic, very troubled guy. We went through a long season where we were broke. I don't mean like broke. I mean like newspapers in your loafers not to let the water in from the rain broke, right? Now we had some money, but my dad would buy $3,000 suits in the 1980s. You know what I'm saying? Like he had to drive a sports car. He had to have, and we did not have the money. Like I have no idea to this day how he managed to do it, right? But he had to appear successful, and it cost a lot of money, but he was a very unhealthy three. Very unhealthy three. All right, fours. the unconscious motivation is to be special and unique, okay? Because fours feel like there is a fatal flaw or missing piece in their lives that has rendered them deficient. And so they have to make up for it by being original, by being creative, by being different than everybody else, right? Now, how do you think fours would spend money?
I know, so I was just trying to think. You guys are the most mysterious number, obviously, for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know, Ian. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think how a four would handle money. And probably, I don't know, would you say they probably are not going to be as open to other people about their situation financially? I could see them being a little bit more secretive of like,
Right.
do my thing over here. So the community aspect, I wonder how open they would be to talk about finances. But I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? How do you think they would spend?
Well, yeah, so I think with fours that number one, depending on the subtype of four, they would think conversations about money were beneath them. Like as though, because fours can be pretty elitist, right? Now I've known poor fours, I've known wealthy fours, right? But money is a pedestrian, plebeian sort of conversation when we should be talking about philosophy or art or music. It's like money. Oh, that's crass almost to be talking about money. Now, another thing about fours is that they could spend a lot of money on things of beauty or things like that, and they would do it because they're uncompromising. Like they're not going to buy a print; they want the original. You know what I'm saying? They don't want, in your words, Anthony, they don't want to buy a sort of a knockoff of a Telecaster. They want a 1958 Telecaster. In other words, and they will spend money they don't have in order to buy the ideal. Now, at the same time, I can see a four doing the opposite. You'll see a lot of fours, particularly social fours, they're buying their clothes at consignment shops and, trying to look different and special. They're looking for, so their search, they could be quite frugal in some ways if
they're rebelling against like the normal society. Yeah.
Yeah. If their shtick was, I'm going to be special and unique by looking like, a hobo, you know what I mean? So it kind of depends, but I know a lot of fours who have very expensive tastes. They really do. And because they love the finer, more beautiful things in life. And I suppose I could get them into trouble. All right, let's move on to fives, the individualists. What do you think?
My husband's a 5.
Yay, fives.
Yes, the investigator. They are, and he would say this, so this is not me talking ill will about my husband, for real though. More scarcity minded.
Yes.
More hoarding type.
Yep.
I think I just want X amount in the bank before I feel good to do X, Y, and Z. Like we just need to really make sure we're, it's that mentality very much more so. So I would say they're probably natural savers. And yeah, I think there's probably a security that money gives. Where 3s, it's a status thing. Where 5s, I see it as kind of the security.
Yes.
For them.
So let me give you another word for security and see if it connects.
Okay.
Self-sufficiency.
Yes.
Fives want a life where they never really ever have to rely on anybody else for anything now or in the future. So acquiring a lot of money would make sure that they wouldn't have to go to their kids and rely on them to get them into assisted living. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or
yes.
and they're by nature minimalists. So like, it's so funny to me. Like I have 5 friends and they have like 20-year-old cars that where everything is falling apart. It's okay to have a 20-year-old car, right? But to have it where it's like constantly falling apart and they're in the garage putting it back together again every 15 minutes. So I think the minimalism can also be a problem. They have 10-year-old printers, they don't tend to win beauty contests.
Yeah. Oh, Ian, we laugh all the time because Winston, like, I mean, up until we've been married 10 years. It was probably a good 6 years into marriage where his like white undershirts, right, that he'd wear under collared shirts or whatever. And again, he would say this if he was on it. Holes on this. And he had Sharpie of his initials on the back collar.
Yeah.
It's like more to a college camp and they would like do their laundry. I was like, babe, you had a package of like 10 undershirts costs $7 on Amazon. I'm just gonna buy them for you. Like, oh yeah, but he didn't care. He does not care. He's like, I'm good. It still works. I'm good. So yeah, it is so fun. And 2 pairs of jeans, and then you just flip flop them. That's all you need.
Yeah, because they have limited energy. They don't like to buy a lot of stuff that requires maintenance or taking care of it. They want everything simple, and they want independence and autonomy. So it's like, I'm not going to spend money on stuff when I may need that money in the future to ensure that I can remain self-sufficient and not rely on others.
Yes, and I'm more of a quantity, right? I could have like 30 pairs of whatever earrings that are cheap and like not expensive, but he would have one. If he did something like if we had to buy a TV, I'm like, oh, just get a mid-range one. I don't care. And if it breaks in 4 years, we'll replace it. It'll probably be cheaper in 4 years. Like, I don't care, And he's like, no. We're going to replace the TV, but it takes, 5 months to research it. And you know what I mean? It's like the thing. And we're going to get a nice one though. So like he will do a quality purchase after the research and making sure everything's good kind of thing, where I'm less on that. I'm like, oh no, we can just get a cheaper one and we can replace it if we need to later. So that's the vibe.
But probably his mindset is, if you amortize the cost of this television over 10 years, 15 years, because that's how long we're going to have it, it's not that expensive. You know what I mean?
That's it, right.
So,
Totally.
All right, so 5s and 1s. Are you ready for this? Now, I know what y'all have this mission, and I understand the Ramsey mission. Don't you think that people can be neurotically frugal to the point that it's unhealthy?
100%. Well, it's like it's the bigger Barnes scripture, right? I mean, it's just like, we're going to just hoard and keep and not spend. And so that's why, even when I'm teaching parents of how to teach their kids about money, I tell them all the time, you have to teach them to give, save, and spend. You have to do all 3 because all 3 are necessary. And when you get to a point, we talk about living like no one else. So later you can live and give like no one else. So that latter end is to enjoy it. And we find, Ramsey hardcore fans, and they're like, they don't want to take a $2,000 trip. And I'm like, take a $5,000 trip because you have $500,000 in the bank or whatever it is. I'm like, forcing people to spend because it can be unhealthy. No, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, because I've often felt sometimes that when I meet somebody who's like almost a fundamentalist about their finances, and they're so frugal, it's almost puritanical. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is no way to live. Like, I want you to live responsibly, but I don't want you to be essentially like a monk living in the woods, not, eating bark.
Well, and it's the classic example of just like holding your money in a tight fist, because usually those people are not generous people because they don't do anything. You know what I mean? So that's a real thing for sure.
All right, let's talk about 6s. One of my favorite numbers, the loyalists. And their unconscious motivation is to feel secure and safe. So how would they be with money?
I would probably group them into probably more natural savers, I would assume. I think that there's probably a level of that security that the 5 has too, but I don't know. 6s and 4s are my like mystery. I can never seem to like get a handle on them. But I see that still kind of being in the forefront of a 6's mind.
Yeah, I think 6s have 2 variants, right? They have the phobic 6 and the counterphobic 6. I think a phobic 6 would be more likely to, because of the anxiety they feel. They have felt anxiety to try and be responsible with money, right? Because they're all about safety and security, right? But the counterphobic six doesn't know they're afraid, right? They are afraid, but they don't know they're afraid. So that's why they often look like eights. And that number might be less inclined than a phobic six to be responsible with money. That said, it really operates on a continuum. There's no pure type. So it's like they go phobic, counterphobic, and it kind of moves around. I think the problem with sixes is, probably with money, is they don't trust their own inner guidance system.
Hmm.
And that's why people like you are so helpful to sixes, because you're the experts. Sixes are always looking for experts to tell them what to do. And so, I bet you a lot of the people that you serve are sixes.
Yep, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be oh man, now like the next event, if we ever have events again in life, I want to be like, okay, what's everyone's number? Because I would be curious. That's a great, yeah. And they're willing to, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sevens. This one's going to be easy.
Sevens, oh gosh. They're spenders. They probably have a lot of debt too, because they probably just pay for everyone's stuff. I mean, like my friends that are sevens, like we'll all be out to dinner. They're like, oh, I'll get the check. And I'm like, you don't have to get the check. Like we can all pay for our food. Like, oh, it's okay. No worries. I'm like, okay, what? Yeah, sevens, it's like, oh yeah, good time 24/7. And money for them is a tool to like just live that out, just to be spontaneous, do the things they want to do. And it feels like they don't really have a care in the world. They're probably not budgeting, let's be honest.
Right. So sevens, one of the things they're going to struggle with is impulsivity. So impulse buys would be a problem for sevens. I have a son who's a seven, so I know something about it. Impulse buys. Their other name is the epicure. And so they really love the finer things in life. Beautiful watches, beautiful cars. See, now you might look at that seven and think they look like a three, but it's for a whole different motivation. They will buy beautiful clothes. We have this partly too, is that they struggle with delaying gratification. So it's like, I got to have it now. Once they think it's like, I got to have it right now. Right. And so I would imagine, you probably have a bunch of sevens in trouble that are in your organization's fold, trying to figure out, how do I stop being somebody who lives this impulsively?
And back to Anthony's point earlier, which we haven't done yet, but the question for each number, a sevens could be, did you wait overnight before that purchase?
Yeah.
Like forcing you to put that time in between that urgency and that emotion, that feeling, and actually let logic set in, and that dopamine rise that you feel like you're going to have when you hit the Amazon cart, like to buy something. Let it just rest, because once that emotion goes away, most sevens I would think would be like, oh yeah, I really don't need it. But
all right, eights. All right, you know something about eights.
Oh, those challengers, yes. I feel like eights could be super responsible when they have their mind to it, because they don't want authority over them. I feel like, and so they don't want a debt collector calling them. Like they don't want, like, do you know what I mean? Like they want the freedom of anyone telling them probably what to do. So they may not be in debt, and I could see them getting very passionate if they have a goal of something, that they would do it and accomplish it, probably in crazy amount of time too. Being very focused on it. And so I would say some eights may not have a lot of debt, because again, I think that authority thing is big.
Right. They don't want to be at the mercy of some debt collector, the IRS, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Eights feel like they want to be in charge, and they have interesting. A friend of mine would say that eights are less interested in being in control of you as much as they are of you being in control of them. So you can see how that would play out, right? I just don't want debt, because then you would be in control of me, right? However, I know other eights who are also, because they're so lusty and gusto and go for it and make big decisions quickly, they can be impulsive like 7s and can get themselves into some trouble with money, and they're not as self-reflective as other people might be, about stuff. All right, last one we got to hit. 9s.
Yep, 9s.
The peacemakers.
Yes. Oh man. I would say probably a frugal sense about them. I would think that I'm thinking of the 9s in my head right now that I know. I see them just yielding to what other people are wanting, right? So it's like, well, we want to go here on vacation. And it's like, they may know in their heads, oh, I can't really afford it, but we'll still go. It's like kind of they're opposite of the 8. I would think that they kind of are at the mercy of people and decisions, because I see them yielding to what other people are wanting them to do in the moment. Again,
Right.
I guess. I don't know, Ian.
No, that's good. That's good. I also think in many ways you probably have a lot of 9s in that. Ramsey's helping a lot of 9s. Here's why. 9s can be disorganized. They can procrastinate. They have trouble prioritizing. A lot of trouble prioritizing. They may, you'll find 9s probably with a lot of bills stacked on the dining room table that they started to work on, but something else got their attention and they wandered off to do that. So 9s could have a lot of trouble with budgeting because they get started on a mission. Okay, so I bet you get a lot of 9s who buy courses because they're like, okay, now I'm going to get it together. And they watch, they start doing it, and then they start to suffer mission drift. And they stop. And they fall subject to inertia. And then the whole money thing can just get disorganized, discombobulated, has no priorities. Now, remember, we have spoken about all 9 types in the average to unhealthy space. So I want to be clear,
Fair.
all types could be very responsible with money if they so chose. So I don't want to in any way say this is a determined deal. Anybody in these numbers will all act this way. No, we're talking about basically the challenges. And so that means in that kind of average to low average space. But we have sort of made a case here, you and I, that personality, if it doesn't become a data point in our thinking about how people will respond to money, like I think if I was a financial advisor, I would want to give all of my clients an Enneagram test, all of them.
Yep.
I would want to know what their types were, because it would save me time. Like, why is she so anxious? And why is he so spendy? And why is this person wanting to take a risk on this investment when it's not well researched? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I would be able to know what was going on in their heads around money. I think it'd be fascinating.
Oh yeah, it's a huge tool for sure.
All right. Well, I can't wait for your new book. Your Know Yourself. I believe in that. Know your money. Discover why you handle money the way you do and what to do about it. Rachel Cruze, how do people find out about the stuff that you're doing?
Yes, you can go to rachelcruze.com. I have a podcast, YouTube show, all the things. So it's all there. Right.
And Cruze is Cruze, everybody, not Cruise, but Cruze. I just love it whenever we have time together. I love your energy. I love your spirit. It's always fun. And so I'm really glad you came on.
Well, Ian, thanks for having me. Been a huge fan, obviously, of the work you guys are doing, you and Anthony both. So thank you for having me, and love typology. It's great. Keep it coming.
Thank you, girl. Hey, thank you, typology listeners, for being with us today. I hope this topic was helpful to you and challenging. And we love you. We're grateful for you. And remember the words of the great Oscar Wilde: be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. Until next time.